A very good evening to all of you. It is, you must have heard me earlier. This is the first time that I'm doing something like this. So you would have to excuse me if I falter, if I'm looking here and there and not looking at the camera in front of me. So you would have to give that a little bit of leeway to me. And you know, I don't know about you, but I have been through multiple webinars in the past 1 month. There are so many opportunities that are coming my way, and this is also I'm taking this opportunity to also learn from others across the globe about how are they really addressing this new phenomena which has hit all our lives. So I'm sure many of you must have also gone through webinars, and there is a little bit of webinar fatigue, I must say, might be creeping in. So you try and do something a little differently here, and I would want all of you to really get engaged. We will do snap polls to get your voice, and Ankita and Murli are going to help me in collating those poll results so that we can see everything quickly live as we go ahead in this 1 hour. So let me start with a quick question to you, okay? And this is like a mood survey. Ankita, would you please go to the next slide? So Ankita is helping me navigate the slides. So this is mood survey, right? And this is something that we have been doing in our organization every day, but I want you to select one of the answers, whether it's great, good, neutral, or sad. So for the past 1 month, on most of the days, how has been your mood? Can you select and write your answer in the chat box? Okay, good. Yeah, mostly people saying good. All right. All right, go ahead. Ankita, tell me, once you've got about 80-85% of the responses, then we will stop and neutral, okay? Okay, now
Yeah.
more neutrals coming up. All right. Okay. I must share with you, and I wish I could play some, sorry for these, as I said. I hope, I wish I could play in front of you exactly how it has been for our organization, and maybe while you're answering, play some music. So unfortunately, you have to hear my voice. So mostly for us, about 80% of the people have been into great and good. Yeah, Ankita, what's the result here? I'm sure
So
about.
I think I see half, like, I think there's a tie between maybe good and neutral. I see a lot of neutral and good. Great, a few. And surprisingly, I see very few sad.
That's good news. That's good news. All right. So see, this is, if we see we as a microcosm of who we are to the larger audience and people in your organization. This is somewhat what other people in your company must also be feeling. It must be about neutral to good. COVID has really disrupted the way we work. It has disrupted overall the global economy. The Indian economy, of course, has been impacted. And hence, these moods are also maybe reflective of the way we are working, the way we are connecting with people, the way we are wanting to connect more maybe with people. Maybe our work has got impacted because of these times. The way we work has got impacted because of these times. So as we go ahead, we'll try and understand how can we really keep these motivations, these moods of our employees to greater extent at a good and great level, and that's my idea is for today. And for the HR fraternity, it's important that how we continue to engage and connect with building these positive expectations amongst our people would really define the way we are going to deal with COVID, just with this situation, not just for now, but for next also. Ankita, could you please shift to the next slide? Right. And you would see almost every organization has created these moments or these hashtags or these initiatives which are about really connecting with people, about staying positive, about nothing can stop us. So if you see, it's all about being together, being responsible, being and we in our organization, on the day this was announced, we started something called 21 Days of Optimism. If you remember, that time it was for 21 days. And later on, we of course now calling it Days of Optimism. We are also utilizing this time to say, to lock in good habits. The idea is that we continuously engage with our employees, and in my mind, there are basically 4 pillars that are important, which is care, the second is connect, the third is celebrate, and fourth is communicate. And all the 4 pillars are creating, are helping us to be really with our people at all given points in time, and help them to either build new habits or to think about the organization and how, by working differently about their own self of working, and differently with the virtual team which is out there, who we are not able to connect every day, how is that really going to impact our life, and how we are impacting positively that life going forward. So it is really about maintaining a very high level of energy, spreading a lot of positivity amongst the people during these difficult times, without negating and not accepting that these are difficult times. And hence, what is the best that can be done during these times? And HR plays an extremely critical and pivotal role during this period. Ankita, if you could shift to the next slide, please. Right. So I with that thought, I want to do another snap poll with all of you and ask you, what is the biggest difference between that you're finding between managing a remote team versus a team which is in person? So is the difference mostly you're finding while training, or is it communication? Go back, please. Or is it performance management, or is it a regular review with your teams and with your bosses, or overall? Can you go to the chat box and write, out of these 4, if you have to pick one? COVID has, okay, somebody has, Swati says communication, right? Communication, all right. Yeah, that's the most difficult. Okay, somebody said performance management. Okay, Reshma, training. Right. So it's a regular. Akshaya also says. Communication and review. Yeah. Yes, I think communication till now is kind of leading. Training. Okay, this is the second one, or maybe the third one. Saying training. Personally, when I was putting this, I was tempted to put communication on the top, because that was really top of my mind too. Because that is this is one thing which has really impacted the way we communicate with our teams, with our colleagues, pre and post COVID days. And today we will spend some time to understand what exactly can be done to make it more efficient, what can be done to make it more effective. So thank you for your responses. That definitely is communication is also top of my has been on my mind when I was preparing this talk. So glad to know that most of you also are, and we are most on the same page or finding similar challenges. Uh, okay, great, great. Uh, can we go to the next slide, please? Uh, and communication has impacted the way we are, the first point, how we are connecting with our peers, our team, and overall my people. It has, that is the reason it has also created a mind shift in the way we are looking at designing our processes, and simple processes as long as the entire life cycle. It is whether it is onboarding, whether it is having a performance a discussion with a person, whether it is for a product a training for the extended team, whether it is really reaching out to people and making them understand how they can embrace digital way of working while connecting to the customers, to their clients. Uh, and to me, also, last but not the least, also how it has really shifted the way I had started behaving, the way I talk, the way I compose my sentences, the way I am wanting to come prepared for a meeting, because the time that we're taking for meetings is really truncated. I do not know about you, but at least in my organization, we have become extremely precise. We've become extremely effective on our meetings, and how we are really communicating through, and that's why, the change behaviors, so earlier, for example, while in a meeting, you are so eager to make your point, and you can see that in others, that they are eager to make a point. So you take a pause because you are able to see that person facial expression, and you're taking a pause and saying, hey, Sam, do you have a question, or what are you thinking? Or hey, Shalini, looks like that you do not agree with my point. Hey, Shweta, you have been quiet. So what happened? Don't you have anything to say? Or hey, Rajesh, I can see you're on the phone. Can you keep the phone aside? So all those things you are not really able to see, and hence you are not able to react the way you would if you are in person. And when you are managing versus when you're managing a virtual team, when you're connecting with your peers or your colleagues, your teams virtually. So all these three things have really impacted the way we are taking our work forward. And I think all of you will agree that this is here to stay. And HR hence plays an extremely pivotal role in managing this entire shift, keeping intact the values of the organization, keeping intact the ethos of the organization, the culture of the organization. Hence, it is this entire transformation phase is somewhere everybody, and more so HR, the HR folks, HR professionals in the companies would have a very detailed, and that's why the second point about process, about rethink exactly how things can be done in a better manner in these virtual way of working. Can you should go to the next slide, please? Great. So, see, I told you, I thought of communication as the primary space where at least I was struggling, and was hoping that most of you folks would also be, and so makes my life simpler. But otherwise, I would have at least this slide partially may not have made, may not have been so relevant. So I believe during these times, there are four things in communication which are extremely important, right? And the first thing, that writing for a change is taking a central stage, because the cues, as I earlier spoke about, those verbal cues, those visible cues are not available to you. People are taking to writing. So even if you are connecting over a MS Teams or a Zoom connect with your people, and you're able to see all your people also, there is a larger dependency that is happening on how you're able to articulate your thoughts in simple sentences, how you're able to put across your points with and write it down simply so that others can take notice and respond to it, right? Because if everybody keeps talking at the same time, it becomes a very chaotic, inefficient way of having discussions virtually. And hence, writing is really taking the center stage. So all of us, I think, have to, many times it so happens that the points that I'm thinking of, somebody else has already spoken about it, right? And it's a great way of saying, I agree, that's it. And writing it down on the chat box saying, hey, you have made that point, I agree. And hence I'm able to then think of a different point to make. So I think this entire phase has also led to certain things which are positive. And one of these things I think is positive, where more thoughts are coming onto the table. And at least I'm seeing this shift, because earlier the same point would get repeated in different sentences and by rephrasing that stuff by different sets of people. But now a simple I agree with that point to move forward. So there's an efficient use of time. Also, you then tend to think of another point, another unique point that you would want to bring to the table, and put that point forth. So that's why communication is becoming vital, and communication is becoming extremely critical in the way thoughts, the way actions, and the way efficiency in discussions is kept forward. The second piece in this entire communication is, I believe, is the trust factor. And in my opinion, and that's why you see that slant there, in my opinion, trust is at all-time high. Earlier, and I can give my example, somebody says I'm working from home, my first reaction would be, oh, okay, the person wants to relax. But now I know for sure, I've been in the insurance sector, and insurance sector is under the essential services sector by the government of India. I know that everybody is really working hard. They're working from home and they're working for home, right? And hence this entire trust factor in my mind is has taken an ultimate stand. I know that my team, everybody in my organization is really giving their best to put their best foot forward, to contribute to the organization, to make a difference in how the work is getting defined, and plus working for home. So we know that, you have to take care of kids, you have to take care of food, cleaning, and other stuff. And people are becoming more productive in that way, in wanting to utilize their time. But also, and that's why that slash sign, maybe, and I want to acknowledge that also, that maybe certain pockets, certain people might be struggling, right? And that's why, again, communication plays a very critical role for managers to go out and ask, periodically do these checks with all employees, saying, are you overloaded with work? Are you able to manage it okay? Are you struggling? What are your challenges? Let me help you with mitigating those challenges. I think those conversations, those communications then becomes extremely critical. And especially with the, sorry for that wrong spelling. It's not quitter ones, it's the quieter ones. So there are people who are quiet, and the managers need to really step up and go forward and talk to them about how are they doing. So that's about from the communication piece. I think there are multiple ways that managers need to reach out. They can be daily check-ins, they could be periodic check-ins, but some fun element also in that in that short time that needs to be kept into account. So that's the first piece. The second piece, I think it's extremely critical during these times, and HR needs to again take center stage in, is deciding the deliverables. The goals we know, as we know now, may not be what were when we started at the beginning of the year, right? They are going to undergo change. They if they are not, have they not changed, they must have undergone a change even now for many of you, right? It is important that these goals, these key result areas, maybe it's time to break them into tasks, to break them into actions, so that we know that when people are working virtually, there is somebody is able to uh, align their work with the larger piece of what the organization is wanting to do, and for a shorter time period, right? So it's important that those goals are broken into tasks, into actions, and everybody, and it is deliberated, it is recorded properly, it is so that managers and people, they know exactly what is expected in that 9 to 5 or whatever 6 to 8 hours that somebody is able to work in during those time, they're able to make a difference, right? So it becomes extremely critical in my mind. It also becomes critical because then you are able to measure the productivity in a much more efficient manner. Otherwise, there might be some people who may not be engaged fully and are being left out, because these tasks, these day-to-day tasks, which you were able to see and guide the people when you were connecting them in person, are not are not very clearly defined when you are virtually working. So to measure that and to keep a track of that, it becomes extremely important that that is spelled out, that is recorded, and then so everybody understands what is the expectation from a day-to-day, from deliverables, and how those smaller tasks are really going to really connect to overall organizational, for the departmental goals. And this is where, something Dave Ulrich always mentions, that in this, during these times, it is important that HR also understands that end of the day, it is not what I want to do as an engagement activity, but is this activity really going to help my employees to succeed in the marketplace? And that marketplace has changed completely, right? And so we have to tweak those deliverables, we have to tweak those tasks, we have to tweak those actions, and those productivity measures, to see that what is really relevant for my people, so that they go and be productive in their scope of work, in their marketplace, right? So that's extremely critical in my mind. Okay, can we go forward, please? Great. So, in order to do that, and in order to connect with your employees, this is something, again, I must say that this is something, the earlier slide is more of a gyan, right? You're saying you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, and take care of employees, ask them how they're doing, they're safe, how is their family, and such thing. And by the way, are you able to work properly? Are your challenges? Those questions, I think we have asked enough. For the past 1 month is something that we have kept on asking to our people. So here is a little challenge for all of you. Okay, here's a little question for all of you. Can you write down interesting questions that you would ask your team going forward, your employees going forward, in your next virtual connect, which has and it is connected to the context and the content also, but it is not a boring like, how are you safe? So can you get creative? Can you write down your creative questions to start that conversation? And remember, the idea is to help them be more productive, help them in the marketplace, and also steer the conversation by asking these powerful and interesting questions. So go ahead, please, and write down your questions. It's making you think, right? So okay, let me give you an idea. So for example, next time you start a meeting, all right. So Vikas says, so how many clothes did you wash yesterday? Okay, by the way, I'm going to circle back on these questions, and okay, it's a male colleague especially. All right, I'm going to circle back on these questions and ask you, are you going to utilize these questions to steer the conversation towards something that you're wanting to talk about or connect about with your employees? How would you like me help you to increase your productivity? All right, yes, and I'm sure that will lead to many interesting answers. So one of the questions that I've been thinking of asking is which is that one most difficult thing you are struggling with today, and how can I help you to do that? Or one of the difficult things that you are not able to do with your customers, and how can I help you with that? So I know these are again a little bit boring questions that I was thinking. So I'm looking at more interesting and important questions. Sorry. So Ankita, can you read out some of the questions? I can't see all of them.
Yeah, sure. I was just collating all the questions also. I'll collate all the questions for all of you so that you can start asking in your organizations as well. So
Yes,
some questions are like, how are you managing your time at home? What is the thing will do immediately after the lockdown? Then instead of work-life balance, how is your household work balance? Okay. What are you?
This I saw. Sorry, Ankita. I
Yeah.
just saw one very interesting one. I think going to use that in my next communication with my people and connect with my people is, what are you watching recently on Netflix? And I'm just thinking how I can think of many ways we can build on this to steer the conversation forward. For example, what is that one lesson that you learned from Netflix, and which you can utilize now with your customers or clients or with your people? And go ahead. What are the other questions?
What is the one prominent change you see in yourself during the lockdown? Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Were you able to finish any certifications? Okay. Uh, how much time you're spending in research? Okay.
Very interesting, because this is really the time that people can take out to understand, benchmark their processes, their initiatives, and ask around what is being done, and then circle it back to their own organization and their own learnings and their own processes. Interesting. Yes.
Any new life skill you learned?
One of the things I think a lot of people are picking up now is uh, inculcating a new habit, or that hobby that people had forgotten earlier, or rather, that hobby had taken a backseat. I think people are reviving it. And a lot of meaningful conversations I've seen, at least in my organization, happening around that, and seeing that how people are really getting motivated by engaging in something which they love to do, and bringing it back to the workplace in a very structured manner. Most of the organizations have started doing it, and that what it has really done is it has, at least for a sales oriented and sales focused organization, is uh, bringing back empathy into the task. And this is another piece which is okay, Vinay. uh, that's so you, Vinay. All right, so and so circling back, and people are finding it meaning in work and work and life. I think that semblance has started that kind of workplace where, this entire fight between workplace and the life space, I think that has become a little bit more diluted, and some people at least may be enjoying that lifestyle change. And I also think that some people might also be struggling with that piece, and hence HR needs to play a very pivotal role in understanding who is enjoying it and who might be struggling with it. Great. So can we go to, so great questions, guys. Ankita, you should collate all the questions and at least share it with me, because I'm
Definitely.
going to use these questions to build conversations around and take the productivity piece ahead, take the efficiency piece ahead. So I'm going to weave in these questions to into those content and context. I don't want it to be only a fun piece, but I want it to be a meaningful question which can steer the direction towards something which is going to help the organization at large. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, it's thank you. All right, great. I wanted to have another question. May I please? I know I have some time. So, and you can all put your answers on the chat box. And this is a little bit of social research that I myself have been engaging with. So think about your first job, the very first paid job, and tell us what are the nuances of that job which is similar to the nuances of what you are doing, the job nuances now, which is during the COVID time, and what are the nuances which you think was similar before COVID hit us, right? So what I'm saying is 3 parts of the question. Think of your very first job. Then think of the nuances of that job which are very similar to pre-COVID times, and the nuances of that first job which are very similar to the current times, which is during the COVID times. And then tell us whether there are more nuances similar before COVID or after COVID. Go ahead, please. Okay, so the question is, think of your first job and very first paid job, and there were nuances, for example, process, technology, connecting with people, there are many things, right? So I started my job way back 24, 25 years ago, and those days, all this was not there, right? Social was not there. So technology was different. The way we connected was different. The way we saw processes was different. But there were certain nuances which were very similar, still very similar to pre-COVID days, which is just now, which is 2 months back. For example, but if I give example, you will think, okay, I want you to think on your lines only, so I don't want to give you answers. So there were certain nuances from that job which was similar to just before COVID hit us, but there's certain nuances of 25 years ago job which is very similar to now, and there are more similarities, I think, from post-COVID days than pre-COVID days. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Looks like it's a difficult question to pre-COVID. Okay, Ankita is going to read it because I can just hear couple of words. That's it.
Okay. As HR, the need to always be in office, now performing the same role, more now virtually. Also seeing the shift in managerial mindset regarding work from home. That's what we may see.
Very interesting.
And we see pre-COVID become too comfortable and more towards execution with speed. Okay.
Yes, I agree. Yes, this was one of my, I know this is something which I left out from the earlier thought, because at many levels, this question has made me think in very different ways, the way I work, the way I behave, the way I look at processes, the way I look at my team. And there are a lot of similarities that I'm finding from those 25 years ago. And of course, there are a lot of dissimilarities also, because the way this virtual connect is completely different, right? Nobody would have thought about it. It's something, and I left it because I thought it's a very deep thing, and people would need to really reflect on it to come up with answers. But do reflect on it, and do write back to me about your thoughts on what are the nuances, what are the attributes which you think are similar and which you think are not similar. It would be great to hear from you about your thoughts on that. So thank you guys. That is from my side. Any questions you want to ask, anything that you want to take forward, your thoughts, please do share your thoughts on how you are managing this entire communication, defining tasks and deliverables for your team. I would be very interested to know.
Thank you, Ruchira, for such an insightful and engaging conversation. Guys, we are opening up questions. If you have any questions, you can please start asking in the chat box.
Ankita, can I
okay,
see
there are people
question?
answering. Yeah, there are people answering to your early question as well.
Okay.
So Rashmi is saying that first job, I was very cautious before doing anything. Same is the situation now. Being very cautious and avoiding to make smallest of a mistake.
Interesting. Yeah.
And she is saying is empathy and taking care of employees personally and professionally as well.
That's the commonality, right? Empathy has really come back big time into our beings. As I earlier mentioned, trust, empathy is, and it has happened organically, right? It just happened overnight, and that's so amazing. I wish this entire piece really continues, especially in organizations which are completely task focused.
Yeah. Okay, Anila has a question. Is it okay, Ruchira, if I read out the questions to you?
Sure, but can I also see the question? It helps me to answer.
It's in the chat.
Okay.
It's by Anila. Can you see it?
Chat. All right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Anila is saying, what was the toughest challenge you experienced in your company because of COVID, and how did you overcome it?
Right. Anila, the first thing was, so we are essential services, right? So we knew that everybody has to work from home. And that was really the first challenge. And we started pretty early. We started much before the lockdown started to understand how the BCP can be invoked, and how 100% of our people for the longest period of time are able to work from home and from a remote location. It helps to be that in the industry that I am, our appointment is actually in the role of calculating mortality rates and such things. So they look at these trends. So they had raised the red flag much earlier. So that was the first challenge. But the second challenge, and that we were up and running quite early, and we had tested a lot of things which people, and for an extended period of time, we knew that it would be required to do much before on 24th of March. But that was easier than the second piece, where we realized that our entire sales force, who wants to be out there, wanting to meet the customers, their clients, and that's the business, right? That the business of relationship, building connects, reaching out to people. And they would want to go there and have a cup of coffee and a cup of chai, and then connect with those clients and customers. For them to understand that this is the way of working, the digital way, the virtual way of working, this is the way that they have to reach out to now their customers, to engage them meaningfully, and make an impact, make a difference in whatever they are doing. I think that shift was difficult, but not impossible. And I'm really proud to say that our training team did a fantabulous job in making those simpler reskilling pieces, upskilling pieces for our entire sales force to go forward and do it. And that is going to be anyway the way of life for us. And that is where I was saying that your HR and the people in the HR area professionals make a huge difference. They are the ones who are the game changers in wanting to hold hands of employees who are finding it difficult and explaining to them patiently about why it is important, how to take this forward. So yes, so those were the two difficult things. And by the way, I must tell you, every day is a new learning. Every day we are finding this things could be done differently, things that we have not even thought of, but somebody else has thought of, and we are trying to adapt it. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Right, guys, we have a couple of more questions. Ruchira, if you,
Yeah.
I'll read out the questions to you. Uh, okay, there's a question. I remember loyalty by companies broke during 2008-2009 recession. Do you think that this time will make it worse or come back to people with empathy and loyal employees given a big place? I think Murli has asked this question.
Uh, Difficult question. My heart says, and I want to believe that empathy is going to come back, and it is already back. And we have all seen, right, the way we are approaching this entire piece with a lot of empathy. But Murli, we also know that these are difficult times for the country, and economically, we know that there are things. Of course, the government is doing what it can to bring us at the forefront and fight it with all the might. But there will be challenges if this continues, right? And if we know for sure that the business will get impacted, and the moment business gets impacted, there might be. We have heard that people are taking salary cuts voluntarily. The leadership teams, we have heard that increments and bonuses have been postponed. And I hope that this is it, and we do not have to go forward with anything more than that. But at this point in time, I think this entire phase defines what VUCA world is all about. So it's wait and watch, and the thoughts, the situations, those are evolving every day, and for different sets of industries, for different sets of uh, organizations within those industries, things will be panned out, will be played out differently.
The next question is, how did you manage pay cuts and layoffs in this situation? And how about branding?
So for my organization, there have been no pay cuts, there have been no layoffs as of now. Branding is something I spoke about it earlier. We have gone ahead and there are two things that we did. We said this is days of optimism. So that's we are focusing on. That's what we are focusing on. The second thing that we did to the outside world was uh, lock in good habits, right? So when you're logged in, you should lock in good habits. And we did live sessions with exercise experts, with mental health experts, with so both physical, mental, emotional, all experts. We were focusing on every day. There were live sessions on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and we had massive, uh, huge huge takers for these sessions, where we had yoga, where Zumba on one hand, where on the other hand we had people coming and talking about how to strengthen emotional resilience, how to strengthen your how to lessen your stress levels, and multiple things. The next level, we are wanting to get experts to talk to people at large, not just our employees, but also our customers, our clients, and our people at large, our advisors, everybody on listening from experts on what next, how should they manage their career, what are the skills that they should learn, which are going to be beneficial for them at a longer run, how to keep pace with the changing times. So we are addressing those, because these we certainly believe are the questions which are already there in people's mind and are going to be there in people's minds. So preparing them to face those challenges is something that is of paramount importance to us, and we are focusing on that, and we will continue this journey.
Next question is for Pratish. How would you handle a situation wherein people might be asked to leave, people who are on contractual basis, third party payroll, due to COVID-19?
See, these are, as I mentioned earlier, Naina, these situations will be case-to-case basis for a particular organization, and the organization would have to decide, the management and the board of the organization would have to decide what they would want to do. Nobody at this point in time wants to take these painful decisions, I'm sure. And if they are taking, they must be doing it keeping the reality of the organization in mind. And I'm hoping that they would want to make it as painless as possible. Yeah, and believe me, these are going to be organization-wide discussions and decisions. It is not going to be only an HR decision, right? It is going to be really decision which will be taken by the entire or management. But HR will have to play a very there's no easy answer to it. If it happens in any company, and if going forward it happens in your organization, you would have to be ready to address those questions, your employees' grievances. I think you should need to start from right now to prepare how to meet up with such questions, those challenges. What should be the communication? And hence, you see again, communication plays a very critical role. Maybe what you can do is go back to 2008, as somebody mentioned, and learn from there as to how good organizations came out of, certain organizations did come out of that situation unscathed, even though they took those kind of decisions. So maybe you may want to connect with those people and learn from them and see how that can be adapted in a situation like this if it comes to your organization.
Okay, Nana is asking, how would you handle or treat a situation where employees agree they are very relaxed with lockdown, happy to be themselves as they have got relaxation with no travel, and HR still need to engage them to keep personal touch with them. The challenges HRs will face here is less reaction or response to anything that is getting conducted unless it is one-on-one session.
So, Naina, as I again mentioned, I will keep mentioning that this is something which is it's so crucial phase for HR to make an impact, to make a difference in the lives of their people and in the organization. The two things for sure organizations are focusing on, and one is reskilling and upskilling your people, right? So this is a opportunity for you to reach out to your people with relevant reskilling options, right? Upskilling options. For example, just to train them how to connect digitally, how to with their tomorrow, right? Or what are the skill sets that they can pick up while they are not able to spend working. You can help them choose those courses, and there are enough and more courses available online, and some of them also come free of cost. So you can create a dictionary, you can guide your employees to different cohorts of employees. In fact, you can really templatize it or you can customize it whichever way you want to do, and steer them, influence them to take this opportunity to learn and develop. So that's one thing. The second thing, of course, is these tasks and deliverables that I spoke about earlier. It's very important that you work not just as HR, but you work with your leadership team, and leaders at all levels, not just the leaders at the top, but leaders at all levels. Your people managers, the level 1 people managers, the level 2 people managers. Work with them to design something, engage them for agile projects that people can work on. It could be small projects which are meaningful and people are able to give time to find solution. These could be anywhere between 15 to 30 to 90 days projects that you can launch. Please understand, and at least as I see it, this is not something which is HR, right? It is something, this is the time that I'm seeing organizations, and at least in my organization I've seen, is people from every aspect, every function have coming together without even being asked to make a difference for the organization. And I firmly believe that nobody is going to say no to you if you go with these propositions to your managers and to your employees.
The next question is from Rashmi. When do you see recruitment coming back to normal? At present, recruitment in almost every company is at freeze.
Right. So when does one recruit, right? One recruits when an organization is growing. So there are, for example, there are more offices that need to be opened, or new branches that need to be opened, or new product lines that are getting launched, and hence you need people, or there's a new technology platform that is being put up, and hence you want more people. So that's the time you recruit. Or you recruit when people are leaving the organization and you want to replace them. And simply put, right? Both these things might not be happening so currently, and hence of course there would be currently there people are not recruiting, but going forward I'm sure organizations would find a solution and would be looking to grow, right? And when things are a little bit more certain, and those times definitely recruitment is going to pick up. My hypothesis is, however, that the normal attrition in an organization might see a lowering down. So that recruitment may not be required, or not to that scale that might be happening earlier.
The next question is from Shan. He's asking, employee surveys today say that 60 to 65% employees want to continue working from home even after the lockdown is over. Would the companies be willing to make it a new normal for the workforce?
I read somewhere, and it's not vetted, so it came as a WhatsApp forward, is that TCS, and somebody's from TCS or knows TCS, has said that they would want people to work from home almost 75%. I'm not sure whether and this news is vetted or not. And this employee survey, Shyam, that you're referring to, which employee survey is this? Is it a particular organization, or is it a general survey across multiple industries and companies? But going forward, I think we know now for sure that the things which where the managers and HR also said that this cannot happen if it is not in person, and it will not be meaningful, it will not be effective if it is not in person. We now know that that may not be the case, right? So there, the organizations and people have found ways and means to find meaning in the way and effective ways of doing the same thing virtually, right? So yes, and by that, if some people want to work from home, and organizations have found a way in my mind, to to monitor the productivity of in a meaningful way, an effective way, so be it. Yes, why not? But the organizations have to find the infrastructure around it to make it really work. And I'm sure there are going to be enough number of tools which will come all our way for doing something like this.
Okay. Guys, unfortunately, we are running out of time. So I request all of you, for whatever rest of the questions you have, please send it to us. We'll make sure that we get in touch with Ruchira and get the answers. I'm sure she'll be more than happy to give all the answers to us. Having said that, thank you so much, Ruchira, for today's session. It was really insightful and I think great way to start our Monday. So thank you so much. Guys, we have another session coming up tomorrow as well, and it's going to be very interesting. It's around change management at merger and acquisition times. I have sent a link for the LinkedIn page. You can all follow to understand the upcoming webinars and register for them as well. Thank you so much for attending today's session, and look forward to having all of you tomorrow as well. Thank you. Thank you, Ruchira. Thank you.
Thank you, Ankita. Thank you, everybody. I will look forward to connecting with you over LinkedIn. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.